Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. posted on X yesterday and said, quote, "I offer to eat 5 more brainworms and still beat President Trump and President Biden in a debate." Gotta say, never thought I would crave the calm, steady statesmanship of Donald Trump. Never ate a brainworm.
That's right. Both Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon last night did attack jokes on RFK Jr. about the brainworm. And now, Jimi Hendrix. Bam, 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 bam. There must be some kind of way out of here, said the Joker to the thief. There's too much confusion. I can't get no relief. This song could be about Washington, D.C. in 2024, couldn't it? Well, happy Friday to you and welcome back. We remain at 888-630-9625. I've got a lot of Joe Biden lying stuff for you today, and a lot of crazy stories today. You see that the people that make the Swiss Army knife, Victorinox, I believe they're called, they're creating a new edition of the Swiss Army knife with, the many tools that flip out, the red handle and all that stuff, and the tweezers and the toothpick and all that. They're making a version without a knife. I blame Democrats. I honestly do. Every child should have a Swiss Army knife. Boys, girls, and Democrat kids, too, that sometimes fall in between. Swiss Army knife is for everybody, but they're now making an edition of the Swiss Army knife that will have the bottle opener and the saw and all kinds of fun things, a can opener, scissors, but no knife to flip out because too scary. I think they're afraid they might hurt themselves, the lefties, not the Swiss. Yeah, we got something funny out of Sweden, too, because I've got Greta von Thunberg. Greta von Thunberg, she's the child prophet of climate doom, of the climate apocalypse that the Democrats have sucked into their vortex and used and abused and spit out. She has a dim future, I'm afraid to say. She's been so used at such an early age, which the Democrats are very big on, aren't they? Using and abusing children and spitting them out. They got that David Hogg guy with the gun thing. They used him as a child prophet. Then of course, your child, apocalyptic doom child, Greta von Thunberg. Achtung. But I've got a little bit of her today, too. Also, the Veterans Administration here in Washington, D.C., they approved nearly $11 million in bonuses for the executives at the Veterans Administration. And it turns out that they should never have been awarded in the first place, and now they want them back. But the $11 million, they want the money back. But the people that got the cash bonuses, nearly $11 million for one government department, they're saying, we're not giving it back. You guys gave us these bonuses, and we're keeping the bonuses. You can't have them. They're going to whip out their Swiss Army knives. But their Swiss Army knives still have the blades. So look out. I'm telling you. So we got that, a lot of crazy stuff going on here in Washington and around the United States. Lots of crazy because Democrats, And speaking of Democrats, another story, riot charges. You remember the violent mob of illegal aliens that stormed across our border and attacked National Guard troops and violently assaulted them, and they were arrested and charged with riot. Well, a Democrat-appointed judge quietly dropped the charges against 200 illegal aliens who stormed the El Paso border, assaulted Texas troops, and it's all on camera. But a Democrat judge yesterday, day before, just quietly dropped all the charges, knowing that the rest of the media won't pay any attention to it because it's the end of America, the end of the United States. They're murdering the United States of America. And I want to get into that story today, too. Lots of amazing things. Also, police install fencing around former GW encampment. I thought fences didn't work and walls didn't work. And they say 11 of the 33 people arrested identify themselves as what, transgender? I know what you're thinking, because that's how they identify. No, as students. Only 11, only 1/3, 11 out of 33 of the arrests, of the people arrested, violent pro-jihad, criminal, psychotic, anti-American, anti-capitalist, Democrats. And only 11 out of the 33 identify as students. Not clear right now how many identify as transgender. We'll have to get back to that later. And we've got Stormy Daniels. We've got President Trump, the court cases, impeaching Joe Biden. But right now I want to get to Joe Biden and the lies, all the lies he tells, and how he's cutting off aid to Israel, military aid to Israel, while they're at war with the troglodytes from hell, who represent the death of civilization itself. Israel represents the preservation of civilization itself, and the left is against them. And Joe Biden is a sock puppet of the left. He doesn't know what decade it is. And if anybody asked him, and no one will. Also, he falsely claimed again yesterday while bumping into furniture that he's going to debate President Trump, but he won't. Now, let me get to this, because this is pretty wild. Here's the headline in the National Review magazine. Menachem Begin. Menachem Begin was, as any school child can tell you, the Israeli prime minister in the 1980s. Menachem Begin warned us about Joe Biden. Isn't that interesting? And Nathan Ehrenreich wrote the story in the pages of the National Review. And Nathan writes, above one of the classroom whiteboards in the Jewish day school I attended as a child hung a poster featuring the face of former Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin alongside a quote. And the quote is, I'm not a Jew with trembling knees. I'm not a Jew with trembling knees. I really like this Jewish school. They're raising kids to think the right way. And that's what the poster said. Now, Nathan writes, I would be tempted to say that our present circumstances call for a proud Jew to tell that to Joe Biden. But the fact is, he's already been told by Begin himself. In 1982, at a closed-door meeting of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Biden, who was then a senator, of course, in 1982, 42 years ago, Biden had threatened Begin with cutting off military aid for Israel's offensive campaign in Lebanon. As Tevi Troy noted in the Wall Street Journal, the story went that Begin responded in fiery outrage. And here's the quote from Menachem Begin to Joe Biden in a closed-door Senate meeting in 1982, when Joe Biden threatened to cut off military aid to Israel while they were at war with a genocidal enemy in Lebanon back then. And Menachem Begin said to Joe Biden, don't threaten us with cutting off aid to give up our principles. I'm not a Jew with trembling knees. I'm a proud Jew with 3,700 years of civilized history. Nobody came to our aid when we were dying in the gas chambers and ovens. Nobody came to our aid when we were striving to create our country. We paid for it. We fought for it. We died for it. We will stand by our principles. We will defend them. And when necessary, we will die for them again, with or without your aid. Now, that's pretty strong stuff from Menachem Begin. Sturdy stock, that man. 42 years later, Joe Biden has learned nothing. That's pretty great. That's the article. It's a great article, National Review. We should probably share this, shouldn't we? It's good stuff. It's about Joe Biden. It's about Israel, about what's going on in the world. You know, the world is at war right now. We are the world, the planet Earth. We are in a state of war. How many have died in the Ukraine war? 700,000? How many have died in the Syrian civil war? 300,000. In the Yemeni civil war in Yemen, 200,000. And the troglodytes in Gaza, they lied and said 34,000. Then they came back and said, oh, we don't have any record of, like 12,000. So they were saying maybe 20,000. And it all, 20,000. And it all started because they massacred, they butchered. I got to tell you, this is kind of maybe a weird thing to say. But when I was driving to work today, I was thinking, because I was reading up on this and other things this morning, starting at 5:45 a.m. or something, and I was driving in today and on a big road in Washington D.C. and I was thinking about the massacre of 1,200 people on October 7th by the troglodytes from hell, and of the symbols of civilization. All the young women and young men at an outdoor concert that were having a nice time, awash in sunlight when the savages came parasailing in, paragliding in, and they attacked and they butchered with knives, they murdered, they raped, they kidnapped, they raped, they murdered again. These savages must be exterminated for the sake of humanity. But in any case, I was thinking when I was driving in about what it would look like to find 1,200 massacred people when I was driving in, and I was this is how my brain works sometimes, but I'm generally a very happy person, and I was driving in and I was thinking, well, what if there were 6 bodies at this intersection? Let's say 12 bodies on this block, a dozen, right? And then on the next block, there were 24 bodies. Now, we're not even scratching the surface, right? We're not even scratching. And then on the next block, let's say the third block, there were 100 bodies. 100 bodies. We're still just at 136 bodies over the course of 3 blocks. But it would be unlike anything any American's seen in America, that's for sure. And then you get to the next block, and there's another 100 bodies, and you keep going, block after block after block, and there are 100 dead bodies, and you see that there are young women and that they've been butchered and cut up with knives in the most gruesome of ways, and that there are some crawling away who have obviously been violently raped and so on. And how long would it take you to drive through this? And you're weaving, and you have to zigzag your way through the bodies until you get to 1,200 massacred people, butchered people, because that's what happened. That's what happened, and that's what these savages did. And they promised not just 1 more, but 100 more, no, 1,000 more, which would be 1.2 million people massacred, as the leadership of Hamas has promised, has threatened 1,000 more October 7ths, right? And the people in Israel know that, even if Joe Biden doesn't know that. And Joe Biden might have known that at one point, but his brain, she's a broke. She doesn't work. So that is that's one of the problems that civilization faces right now, because civilization is under assault. You got the communists in Vladimir Putin attacking Ukraine, who pines for the days of the Soviet Union when they massacred millions of people themselves, because they're communists. And we've got the Islamists who love to massacre, they're genocidal maniacs, and they're loose on the planet. And the United States of America has historically played the role of moral compass and moral arbiter, and we would rally the civilized world against the uncivilized world, and we would stand firm against them. When the communists and Kim Il-sung in North Korea was put into place by Joseph Stalin out of Moscow, and attacked South Korea, and we rallied the world and came to the aid of the South Korean people, and we're still standing firm in South Korea. We came to the aid of the Vietnamese people when the French pulled out after Dien Bien Phu to fight against, again, the Soviet Union, expanding totalitarianism in Southeast Asia. We stood firm during the Cold War. We manned Checkpoint Charlie and the Fulda Gap for the Soviet threat, because we oppose totalitarianism, and totalitarianism is on the march in the 21st century again. Communist China, Putin's Russia, the Islamists in Iran, and by extension, the Gaza and Yemen and Syria and Lebanon and beyond. Civilization is under assault in the 21st century, and the United States is not doing what we ought to be doing. And Joe Biden and Barack Obama are the wrong people for the job if we're interested in saving civilization in the 21st century. Just saying. All right, we've got Joe Biden's lie a minute coming up, and his threats against Israel. Hey, being a mom is one of the toughest jobs in the world. Everybody knows that. Requires endless patience and love and sacrifice. And after being the nurturers, the problem solvers, cheerleaders, chauffeurs, superheroes to everyone else, who's going to care for her? Well, you know, Sunday is Mother's Day. And now is the time to show Mom that she deserves to be pampered with footwear that supports her every step, her every move, with G-Defy's innovative technology to help reduce knee pain, back pain, foot pain. Mom can enjoy all-day comfort without compromising her style. Whether she's running errands, chasing after little ones, or just enjoying a leisurely stroll around the neighborhood, G-Defy shoes help provide the perfect blend of support and elegance. We just ordered a pair from a Best Girl day before yesterday. Let Mom know with every step she takes that she's appreciated with the gift of G-Defy shoes. Use the code CHRIS, C-H-R-I-S, for $30 off your order of $130 or more at gdefy.com. That's Gdefy.com. Show Mom that you care with G-Defy. So it's kind of weird, but I was thinking about that driving in today, just to think about the scale and the magnitude of the October 7th massacre by the savages. And if you came upon something like that, it would change you for life. But our news media, they just kind of smooth it over, don't they? They glossed over it, like so many things. Like Steve Scalise being shot, like massacres of police and suicide attacks. Our media is the most corrupt institution in America. Okay. We've got a great deal of news to get to today. Lots of remarkable stuff. Good dinner table conversation. Well, some of it anyway. Maybe not my drive to work story, but hey, it's what I was thinking. It's what I do for a living, and I've been at this for a long time. I don't internalize it. I don't personalize it. I kind of look at everything from, as they like to say in Washington, from 30,000 feet, and I try to look at everything, particularly these big bad things, in the context of history, and recognizing that we're witnessing episodes in history. I try to put them in context right away, because they need to be put into context, don't they? And I think I do that here. I certainly try to do that much of the time here. Hey, we'll come back to your calls out and Joe Biden's lies, Joe Biden's many, many lies. A lie a minute coming up. The old levy's going to break. 2 weeks ago, the U.S. Senate passed a $61 billion aid bill for Ukraine. 2 weeks ago. This morning, the Biden administration is announcing a new $400 million aid package for Ukraine. What happened to the $61 billion from 2 weeks ago? You guys already buy yachts and houses in Switzerland and Mediterranean seafront chateaus? Just amazing. U.S. to announce new $400 million military aid package for Ukraine today. 10:21 a.m. the statement came out. The United States will announce a new $400 million aid package for Ukraine on Friday, just as it appears Russia has launched a major offensive in Kharkiv. Didn't we just give $61 billion stinking mamma-jamma dollars? According to two U.S. officials and a notification sent to Congress obtained by Politico. Wow, remarkable. And at the same time, Biden is announcing that he is unilaterally cutting off military aid to Israel while they're being attacked by Hamas, a radical Islamic jihadi genocidal death cult army that represents the death of civilization. And the lead story in the Washington Times today, front page, upper right corner, Biden's cutoff of aid enrages Netanyahu, Israel allies. Republicans threaten impeachment articles. President Biden's decision to curb offensive weapons shipments to Israel to signal U.S. opposition to a looming offensive against Palestinian militants in the besieged Gaza city of Rafah, which, by the way, is where all the leadership of Hamas resides at the moment, and at least 3 brigades of savages who are Hamas suicidal death cultists, genocidal lunatics. That's where they are, and that's why Israel knows they need to attack them there, because that's where they are. It's like, why do you rob banks? Well, that's where the money is. Why do you bomb Rafah? Well, that's where Hamas is. See, that's why. And yes, they surround themselves with civilians. And I played the audio the other day of an IDF soldier calling to a man in Gaza saying, get out of the building you're in, because the building across the street is a bank, which is a Hamas headquarters, and we're going to drop a big bomb on it. And he said, screw you, we're going to die. My children are going to die. I have 20 family members here, and we can't wait to die. We love death more than you love life. And we'll use it against you when you do kill us. We'll be martyred. Martyred. They blow up so soon. So the Washington Times covers the story correctly, and this announcement drew a defiant rebuke from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and talk of impeachment from Republican critics on Capitol Hill, accusing Mr. Biden of abandoning a longtime ally at a time of mortal peril. Republicans began drafting impeachment articles against Mr. Biden on Thursday. They said they had no choice after the president paused the shipment of 3,500 bombs and threatened to withhold additional weapons should Israel attack Rafah. Well, the threat is a lie in many ways, too, because he said, I will stop shipments if they attack Rafah. They haven't attacked Rafah yet, and they cut off the shipment 2 weeks ago. And they lied to Congress about it and kept it a secret from Congress because they don't believe in branches of government. When the Supreme Court told them they could not continue to take tens of billions of dollars to pay off student loan debt, they said, screw the Supreme Court, and they kept doing it anyway. Congress authorized the money for weapons going to Israel, and that is Congress's role constitutionally, and Joe Biden said, screw Congress. We'll just stop the shipment. And by the way, this is what they impeached Donald Trump for, and Donald Trump did not cut off shipments of weapons to Ukraine when they were at war with Russia, because they were not at war with Russia until Joe Biden came into office, just by the way. So there's a lot going on that front. Just remarkable things going on because the left is in charge. The phony creeps at the Washington Post, not a newspaper at all, their lead story is Israel holds firm on invasion plans despite U.S. threats. Biden warns of cutoff to arms supply. He already cut it off. The shipment was supposed to have gone weeks ago, and it didn't go, even before he started threatening. Shift marks most serious public rift since war's start. It actually marks the most serious rift in decades. But the Washington Post is not going to report that because they're crooked. They're a Democrat Party front group and nothing more. Nothing more. And the story below that on the front page of the Washington Post, health crisis in Rafah, colon. They love their colons. Wounds, burns, disease. Well, I guess they shouldn't have started a war with a much more powerful ally that lives next door and provides them with medical supplies and electricity and fresh water. But they did. And now their leadership must turn over the hostages, turn over their leadership to be tried for war crimes, turn over their weapons, and surrender completely and unconditionally, as I have been saying for months now. But there you have that. Now, Joe Biden has lied about many things, many things. He lies a lot, and he is pulling the rug out from under Israel at a critical time, as only an enemy of the Jewish people would do. It's the only Jewish state, you know. I don't know if you're aware of that. But it is the only Jewish state, and well, I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm just anti-Israel. I just don't think that the only Jewish state should be allowed to exist. And the analogy that I've been using is, well, I'm not anti-Japanese. I just don't think that the nation of Japan has a right to exist. It shouldn't be allowed to exist. It should be wiped out from the sea to the ocean, because you got a sea on one side and an ocean on the other side. It's like the river to the sea. But the Japanese people have no right to live in Japan, and Japan has no right to exist. But I'm not anti-Japanese. That's, of course, ridiculous. Makes no sense. What? Man, oh man. All right, so now back to the racist, Jew-hating president of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden. The headline in the Washington Post is not about this, but the headline in the New York Post is, Biden tells a lie a minute during CNN interview. The White House rarely allows President Biden to sit down for interviews, and Wednesday's chat with CNN's Aaron Burnett shows why. In a brief 17 minutes, Biden told 15 lies, nearly a lie a minute. From whoppers about the economy to prevarications on Israel, Biden spun a fantasy land of a presidency that voters know is false. And they have a fun picture of him here with a Pinocchio nose and looking like he was made by Puppet Geppetto. Lie number one, the New York Post has, I've created over 15 million jobs, Joe Biden.
Created over 15 million jobs since I've been president.
Lie. That's a complete lie. And the New York Post points that out, and the Washington Post and the New York Times don't. Biden's favorite falsehood, told over and over again, no matter how many times fact checkers call him out on it. He took office at the tail end of the pandemic, and that blew a hole in the economy when lockdown policies, wholeheartedly endorsed by Democrats, took people out of the office because of the COVID stimulus checks, right? But it's not true, and the jobs rebounded, and then he took credit when we stopped the shutdowns, and then he took credit for the jobs. That was a big lie. It'd be a record number of jobs. Lie number two, Joe Biden.
I'm not being facetious. Think about it. He started off, he lost, other than Herbert Hoover, he's the only other president who lost more jobs than created in his 4-year term.
Lost more jobs than he created. Again, the lockdowns didn't really eliminate the jobs. They put them on ice, but that's a lie. Everybody knows it. He tells it over and over again. Joe Biden's third lie in his CNN interview.
And look at what he says he's going to do if he gets elected. He says he's going to do away with what I've done on Medicare, reducing the price of Medicare drastically.
Absolutely false. The New York Post points out there is no basis for this false claim. As Trump has said, he will, quote, never do anything that will hurt or jeopardize Social Security or Medicare. Sounds pretty clear. And beyond that, Trump pursued the exact same executive orders to lower prescription drug prices as Joe Biden. But he lies very comfortably because he knows the Washington Post and CNN and George Stephanopoulos at ABC are not going to fact check him. Joe Biden, lie number 4, CNN 17-minute interview.
You know, we got 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what their average federal tax is? 8.3%.
That is, of course, a flagrant lie, and everybody knows it. We've got 1,000 billionaires in America, and they pay a tax rate of 8.3%. Completely false. Factcheck.org, a left-wing front group for the Democrat Party, Already fact-checked this. The top 0.1% of earners with more than $4.4 million in expanded cash income pay an average tax rate of 25.1% in federal income taxes and payroll taxes, not even counting if you're in D.C., another 10% tax there. Another flagrant lie. Joe Biden's lie number 5.
Are you worried that you're running out of time to turn that around?
We've already turned it around. Look.
We've already turned it around. The economy's already been turned around. Sure, that's what happened here. The economy's just great. It's just that you're all wrong about it. We're all wrong about it. And Aaron Burnett quoted some tough figures to Joe Biden on the economy. The cost of buying a home has doubled. The real income, when you account for inflation, is actually down since he took office. And then Joe Biden just denied that. Lie number 6.
The polling data has been wrong all along.
Don't believe the polls about how he's behind Trump in the polls, because the polls are wrong. You can't believe the polls. And this is a big left-wing thing. You just don't believe the polls you don't want to believe. And you say the polls are wrong. And then you get all the mail-out ballots, and you mail out more ballots than there are people, more voters in the United States. And see what happens then. Line number 7, Snickers bars are smaller than they used to be, but still cost the same. And that's not the free market and increased prices of chocolate and everything else. It's those terrible companies.
I mean, there's corporate greed going on out there, and it's got to be dealt with.
There's corporate greed going on out there, and it's got to be dealt with. Labor costs have increased 4.2%, 2023 to 2024. That's just one Joe Biden year. They increased 5.1%, 2021 to 2022. That's Joe Biden's first year. The cost of everything from supplies to shipping to gas to rent to taxes have all gone up because of Joe Biden's policies. Huge government spending on who knows what. Line number 8.
Bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office.
That is a flagrant and outrageous lie. It was not 9% when he took office. It was, in fact, 1.4% on the day that he was inaugurated. 1.4%, not 9%. Earlier in 2020, it was 1.2%. But he says 9%. And Aaron Burnett didn't say, Mr. President, it was 1.4%. She didn't say that. She just moved on to the next lie. Lie number 9.
They have the money to spend. It angers them and angers me that you have to spend more.
Yeah, you all have the money to spend on the increased price of everything. And that's not his fault. His economic policies, the government spending, the inflation, the gas prices, because he crushed our energy independence that President Trump had secured. Lie. Lie number 10.
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers.
Yeah, the ways they go after population centers. This is libel, of course, Jewish blood libel. To suggest that Israel is deliberately targeting population centers, the exact opposite is, of course, true. And bombs kill people. That's the whole point. There's a war. They shouldn't have started the war, the savages. Lie number 11.
We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas.
Walking away from them, their ability to wage war in those areas. Now, that's obviously completely false, absurdly so. You're hamstringing them, and you're making it more dangerous because precision bombs actually save lives in wartime, don't cost lives like that. Just amazing. We still got more Joe Biden lies. I can't get to them all at once. They're so numerous. But in one interview, and did CNN fact-check him? Did they fact-check him in real time like they pretend to do during Trump speeches and so on? No. No, they don't. And did the Washington Post fact-check him? No. Glenn Kessler is not a real fact-checker. He's a Democrat. He gets awards for being a corrupt fact-checker, though. All right, more Joe Biden lies, and more lies. And crazy Democrat hijinks elsewhere as well. We're at 888-630-9625.
We choose truth over facts.
That crooked former FBI guy, Andrew McCabe, is on CNN today. And one of the guys trying to sabotage Trump. CNN hired him because they know he's a crook. And he's on today saying, Russia is going to meddle in our election because they want the Republicans to win. These people should be in gulags. Man, oh man. All right, back to the lies of Joseph Robinette Biden in a 17-minute interview with CNN day before yesterday, lie number 13.
Look, you can't only love your country when you win.
You can't only love your country when you win. Someone better tell all the celebrities and elites in the Democrat Party and claim they're, going to move out of the country if Trump is reelected. This is you can't only it's always the left that's going to flee the country. Joe Biden, lie number 13. That's what he's talking about. If Trump wins, you can't. Yeah, right. And he's saying Republicans. Of course, he's not talking about Democrats because he's an idiot. Lie number 13.
I travel around the world with other world leaders. You know what they all say? Not a joke. 80% of them, after we have a major meeting, they go, "We've got to win. My democracy to stay. Their democracy to stay."
Yeah, he goes around the world, and people tell him, you got to win. Trump can win. Now, Trump was president for 4 years. Democracy thrived. There was no war in Europe, no war in the Middle East, energy independence for the U.S. World was going quite well. 80% of them don't say that their democracy is at stake if Donald Trump wins. You're a lying sack of Jewel. Lie number 14.
And then he's going to put in a 10% tax, which is going to increase everybody's cost. The average American costs $1,500 a year.
That's not true. He's cutting taxes. You're doing away with his tax cuts. You're increasing everybody's taxes. You're a lying sack of Jewel. You say everybody's got to pay more. And then you say nobody's going to pay more unless you make more than $400 a year. But you repealed tax cuts that made sure that everybody under $400,000 a year paid less in taxes. Joe Biden, it's that terrible Trump.
It made no sense in my view to engage in thinking that in Iraq they had a nuclear weapon.
But why did you vote for the war then? Apparently you believed it when it mattered, but now it made no sense. In retrospect, revisionist history. He gets to rewrite it for himself. He's a Democrat. 15 lies, 17 minutes.